All right. Let's call this meeting to order at 7:13 p.m. We're going to start with a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Sunshine law notice. Allison, I don't have that either.
It should have been under your agenda.
It's not there.
I'm turning.
Does anyone have a sunshine law notice?
I'll give it.
I do not have the sunshine law.
It's different.
No, here.
Thank you. All right, sunshine law notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform, being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of February 5th, 2024 is available by calling phone number or through web conference. Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it's time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in the schedule of meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2024-13 and sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times on January 4th, 2024, posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board in the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required in the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include this statement in the minutes of this meeting. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Paul,
Yes.
Demaseli,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Thank you. 25 Poplar Avenue tree appeal is the gentleman who was on Zoom last meeting here.
He's
Oh,
on.
he is on Zoom. Okay. This is Sean. Sean, are you there?
Yes, this is Sean Lynch. I live on 25 Poplar. Can you hear me?
Okay. All right. Sean, I see you have an email here. Is there anything you want to add to that or tell us?
Well, hey, I mean, I just wanted to thank the council again for the previous time last week, or sorry, in the previous session. I thought they raised some good points, but I think there was some confusion about the quantity of trees and my request. I just want to make the statement that I'm here seeking to have 3 pine trees in my backyard removed. The root system continues to cause damage to the concrete footings, which is causing the fence to fall. 5 years ago, these footings were replaced, yet it continues to be an issue. I'd like to work with the town to have the trees removed and replant with the council's approval.
My only question is to you, based on the email from Abby and Matt Karnofsky, is the borough have any liability here if there's damage to the fence or the house, or does that become a civil complaint between two residents?
It'd be between the two residents.
Okay. Anyone else?
My only outstanding question was related to the property lines. Right, or the true, where, didn't we last time talk about where were the trees on whose property line, and we wanted that clarification?
Right, and as you can see in the pictures, they added a new fence, which is white vinyl. Our fence is wooden. You can clearly see that the property line and where it runs through.
No, negative, sorry, Sean, I don't know what pictures you're referencing, but.
Oh, there we go.
Grab them just in case.
Oh, that's what
So we gave 10 pictures. So that's the other one. That being one of them.
Got it. This is super helpful for me. I'm good on mine. That's my question.
This fence down.
Yeah, he'll take the
They're two
trees
parallel
out,
fences.
and then you're gonna replant a fence?
No, he
We'd like
said-
to
he said
repair
he
our
can-
own fence. We'd like to replant trees in the after the removal of these pine trees.
He's going to attempt to stabilize the 4 footings of the fence posts,
Got it.
which have been completely damaged by the trees. Then there's 3 other posts which have begun to fail that need further inspection. If the damage is too severe to fix, they're gonna further pursue a professional. Any other
Just
questions?
one question. Sean, you interested in planting, native shade trees?
He writes here that he's gonna replace them
Red oaks.
with 3 red oaks.
Good choice.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone with a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, Sean, thank you.
Thanks, Sean, for the extra due diligence, sir. I appreciate it.
We'll
No,
send
no,
you a
thank you very
letter.
much. I appreciate the council's time.
Sean, just wait, make sure you wait for the letter from the borough before you cut anything.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next up, Fairhaven Green Team pollinator sign. Yes. Come on up.
Ellie Flanagan, 223 Third Street. So, the green team was awarded a Sustainable Jersey grant in May and to help design and implement a pollinator garden on the Third Street Trail. In addition, with an interpretive sign, education sign about why pollinator gardens are important, the use of native plants. So we are seeking your approval for the sign design. We have given you a draft of it, and I know I sent to Allison a updated draft. I have a few of these copies here, and I believe it's also on the screen. A little bit of information, education of why or what role pollinators are, why it's important for native plants and some of the plants that we are actually having there in the garden. So people can go there and actually point them out, bring some information if they were wanting to do this in their own yard as well.
What's the, are you ready for questions?
I'm ready for questions.
Why is the TSEG Foundation? Are they giving the grant?
Yes, so the grant is supplied by Sustainable Jersey, MPSD and G, and so any education or printed materials needs to have their logos as well.
Okay.
And
I have a
and the
question.
borough's logo
And the-
should be on that
Okay.
too.
Sure.
What about, now, this is in Fairhaven Fields, right? Off the Third Street Trail?
Yes.
What about children who are allergic to bees and bee stings? I mean, we do have quite a few children in our school system that carry EpiPens just for that purpose. So how do you intend to protect these children from the pathways?
Oh, the pollinator garden, there's a lot of different pollinators and types of
Right.
pollinators, right? Bees are just one of them, although bees are everywhere. It's really hard to contain children from having bees there. They could be in the clover on Fairhaven Fields as well when they
Right.
play baseball. So I don't think we're trying to put any children in danger or harm's way. That's not the intent. But understanding too that most of the bees as well, there's a lot of bees that don't even sting,
Right.
that are pollinators,
Right.
that are doing such an important job. So the goal is to educate, expand ecosystems, build a healthier native ecosystem, and I just, I think that risk is everywhere. Kids are going to be as well, because you get clover and flowers in your grass as well, and you can't protect it, so our thoughts is that we're not trying to build a bee colony or ecosystem, but just supply habitat for a large number of different.
And your garden will be well marked, right?
It will be marked, it's off to the side, so it's not right on the path of where, a lot of the students or residents bike and walk their dogs. It's a little bit off to the side, kind of on the base of the hill of the brush area. So if you haven't been there before, I think it's a great way to kind of soften that landscape a little bit too, because it is the backside of the brush hill. And so that would be just a great way to kind of improve the look of that area as well. So it's off to the side a little bit.
Are you planning on having each individual's plant actually marked or just on the sign?
So this is the base of the sign. Now, perhaps if approval, that could be something else where we can actually identify the sign with a tiny little identifier right there so that, you know, I know Nativity Church has done that and their pollinator garden, it looks really cute, but this is just for this one sign that's gonna be there, so that.
Wait,
residents can
what was
actually-
it? What are you saying?
So this shows you which plants are in it, but what I was asking is sometimes they'll have little labels at the actual plant that's growing, so you can.
Arboretum.
Yeah, we have, don't we have some of that in the natural area by trees?
We do.
Don't we have trees that have?
They're very old signs,
Yeah.
maybe about 5 to 7.
Does the money from Sustainable Jersey and PSC&G just cover the cost of the sign?
No, it covers the cost of the sign, as well as the plants and materials that we need for the
I'm
garden.
just wondering,
So it's-
would those signs be able to fit in or like in
We
the cost
could,
of this?
yeah, it's a $2,000 grant. The sign, design and, production will cost about $680.
Mhm.
Plus about $150 to ship. It will take about 6 to 8 weeks for designing and production and shipping. One caveat or parameter of the grant is that it needs to be completed the final report needs to be turned in and completed by the end of May. So this is a timely matter and I appreciate it and thank you for, putting us on this meeting. So that we hope we still need, if approved, we would have to get the vendor approved by the borough and it'll take some time. So we're hoping that perhaps if we can get this by May, and do get it in the ground. So we have plenty of time to do the final report.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
How long do you expect that this garden would be active?
We're hoping that it's something that remains part of the ongoing maintenance, whether it's through the volunteers or the borough, but we're hoping that this is, the thing with, native plant gardens and pollinator gardens, and some of the experts can speak more to it, that once it's established, it's pretty self-contained.
So you
So,
wouldn't expect the borough to maintain it?
no, we had over 60 volunteers this weekend working that trail. I do think that people love that area and love what's happening. I think that we would be easily able to work that into another volunteer day or get other people to help out. We've been working with the Knollwood Green team. We have a pollinator garden on their grounds. We also have a rain garden. Their green team and with Miss Annabelle, their moderator is fantastic and it's always looking for things to help do and projects. I think the scouts would be great as well. And maybe join and collaborate with the Fairhaven Garden Club and other great community organizations we have here. But once it takes about a year to get these plants, you have to water them for the year. And then once their roots are established, they're pretty much, self-sufficient.
Right, because there's no water out there.
No,
So you would organize volunteers to water the garden?
as what's been happening for the past 2 years with those trees that's there, yes. The thing is, which is a benefit, is that these plants don't need nearly as much water as a tree does during the summer, but yes, that's something that we will definitely work and hopefully, Fairhaven volunteers will come in again and help us out with that.
Who has to install the sign? Is it DPW or the manufacturer of the sign?
So we would be asking if DPW could, if not, it's, they give you great instructions for it. You don't need cement piling. You can also use crushed stone as well. And they give you all the instructions for how far to dig it in. And it will most likely be a wooden post, lumber, post up there.
Like a 4x4 probably?
Yeah. Mhm.
I just had.
Okay, so you're not using, because this shows that it was, I thought I saw high strength aluminum. Is that the frame?
You could do, so, there's 2 different cost options. High aluminum will be a little bit more substantial or significant. It will be $411 compared to a lumber post with $262. So
You think?
and I
more?
think the wooden area in that natural, will fit right into the landscape as well too, a little bit nicer.
So that knocks out one of my questions.
Sure.
So I have no problem with this, but I do want to bring up an existential issue in Fairhaven, which is I think sometimes signs get put up and someone mentioned, and then over time, they do get neglected. And they don't look as good 5, 10 years, 15 years down the road. So like, I know one of my favorite signs was at the dock. I don't even
Yeah.
think it's still there. with the mark of where hurricanes, so I love
Right.
stuff like this,
Mhm.
but the question becomes, how do we, and I think this might have some beautification,
Or maybe
you know,
rotation for maintenance.
something, I think we need to discuss, how do we maintain these moving forward so that the sign gets placed and it looks as nice this year as it does 10 years from now. Otherwise, you're gonna start putting these signs up over town, and I think they're gonna have a detriment to the town rather than enhance it.
Yeah.
If we do it the right way, I could see this program, you know, going to other places, and whether it's historical signs or whether it's educational signs,
Yeah.
we do more, but we gotta do it the right way. So I'm just mentioning that.
Good point.
Well, on that, with that, aluminum would be better. I agree that wood would look better, but aluminum would look better after 10 years than wood.
Does aluminum rust? It doesn't rust.
No.
But that's also, the structural part, right? That's a
The
post.
post.
And the post you can feasibly do and, you know, on your own. You're talking about the actual cover, the material of
The
this,
plastic,
right?
you know,
So
does
it
it start
doesn't
to
get faded,
oxidize?
right, exactly. And so this is actually designed, that they're outdoor signs. This is what this company does and makes from, Rumson, Victory Park Rain Garden, just use the same sign or the same company to do their rain garden sign right there at Victory Park. There's gonna be exposure to a lot of elements, obviously, the nature of our environment here, but they do say that with the materials, it's guaranteed to last 10 years, you know, in that range.
I just wanted to first compliment Green Team's efforts on behalf of Fairhaven. I think one pollinator garden, then another pollinator garden, and then another leads to a nice pollinator path, which is a view from there. And I think the mayor's point about, you know, multiplying signs is a fair one. We could contemplate a more comprehensive signage scheme if there is going to be more, but in this instance, we're talking about one for education purposes, and perhaps there's one at Knollwood for education purposes, which seems to be completely in line with the whole point. My only question have you given any thought, and perhaps this is also a question for council, to the location of the sign?
So, we hope to put it right in the
Like
front.
next to the garden?
Yes, right in the garden, kind of off to, again, as you enter the, Third Street Trail, either from Third Street, or from Fairhaven Fields, it's kind of in this area right here.
Yeah, so now-
Yes, and so we want to do it in the front there in a visible spot, so people will be, you know, inclined to come over and see what this is about and.
So something of an invitation
Yes,
and a little interaction.
yes.
Sounds nice.
You have a question or motion?
My only thing is fully supportive. I love it. I think it's long overdue. My fear is vandalism.
Mhm,
We know that kids hang back there.
sure.
So I don't know if in the grant or outside the grant, I'm gonna use a term to metaphorically describe what I'm thinking, but if there was like an Apple tag equivalent that we could put in the sign, so if somebody did steal it, take it, even try and move it somewhere else, we could track it. I don't know if that's opportune, but you know, that Sandy sign got taken down. I know other signs around town have been targets, and this is literally in the dark, in the middle of the woods, where there's not a lot of traffic at nighttime to deter activity, so. I welcome anything on
Yeah,
that.
did the standard sign get taken down because of the vandalism?
Or it's just
Or it
maintenance.
was moved because it was taken?
I don't really know what
I
happened.
don't think
in all
anyone-
honesty.
There one day and got there.
Probably did.
I love that sign too. That was a great sign.
Done.
You'd show all the kids, you know,
Yeah.
where,
I'll put it on the, I'll just see if we can find out.
now, in speaking of vandalism, so I did reach out to her asking that there are two different types of, materials you can use. She said, as long as you're not worried about vandalism from sharp objects, think a sign on a fishing pier where everyone has hooks and pliers, and this should be fine, that it's covered and durable. It's also graffiti resistant, and you know, you can like use scrubbers and graffiti cleaning, no problem. It won't mess up the material before, underneath. It is fastened to a plate on the back that is put onto and fastened to the post. But yes, I don't know if somebody really wanted that sign, could they get it? I'm sure they.
Sure,
they
and I'm
could.
talking like, you know, the
Yeah.
teenagers going through at 7:30 at night and trying to goof off, right?
Maybe they're really into pollinators. That would be cool.
Risa, is it feasible for the DPW to do, is that easy to do, or is it?
The installation piece, I'll talk to Rich. I mean, if it's not a heavy lift, I don't, think it should be too difficult, but, it's. Off the top of my head, I don't recall them, installing the other signs. I think we have the sign company do it. These people are remote. Did you check with any local vendors? I mean, why are we going so far away?
I spoke with 2 vendors that do interpretive, signs. And this one was much cheaper than Pulse Sign and Backer, and Rumson used them and you could see the sign and the quality of it, and so that's why. Actually, went there. I'm happy to, look into what signs.
I think the price is pretty fair.
Yeah, you seem to have done your due diligence. That's okay. I just didn't know if there was a reason why we were,
I would feel better if we had either the DPW or the sign company put it in. No offense with the volunteers, unless you do it every
Sure.
day, you get frosty.
We also, Kelly, one of the primaries of that company actually does the illustrations.
Yeah.
So that's also saving us money.
The copyright
By any illustration is all done by the artist that's in-house.
That's good.
So that's a money save for us as well.
we could put it on our next, engineering public works.
Yeah, just wrote it down.
Okay.
Great.
And I'm happy to send you the installation instructions and the materials and specs that they give.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does someone have a motion?
I'll move to motion. Okay.
The other thing I've thought of, as opposed to the wooden post, it'd be nice to ask the sign manufacturer mounting it to a wooden post versus mounting it to, the aluminum.
Okay.
If the aluminum is a much easier mount,
Sure.
just 4 little, bolts or something, then it might be worth the extra money for the
Okay.
aluminum post, as opposed to worrying about how they're gonna actually, put it to the wooden post.
Okay,
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, proposed brush and leaf collection ordinance. Do you wanna?
Yeah, I'll give a quick update, and then we can jump into the discussion. We wanted to come back one more time. All of the feedback based on the last governing body meeting and discussions has been incorporated. A few things that have to be further clarified in here, just so everybody's on the same page. The brush can is for brush only. So there's one still, I think, outlier related to leaves in here. There's been discussion and we need direction from the governing body for those that use a landscaper or not compliance. We updated it that the first violation doesn't incur a fine, right? And then the 10-day grace period like we talked about. But if there is a fine, and Andrew, I'll kind of look to you, can we find both the landscaper and the resident?
So there would only be able to be one fine issued, but you can issue the complaints to multiple parties to see who would in fact take the ultimate responsibility.
Okay,
But then what happens when they start fighting with each other about whose responsibility it is?
Can we
Well-
back up a notch or two? Let her answer.
That's basically
Oh, sorry. Hi.
I thought it was rude.
Sorry, I was gonna say, if you issue the citation to both of the parties, then, I mean, no, neither of the party will be responsible until they are, agree to either pay it in municipal court or, are found guilty of the violation. So, the court process would play itself out with regards to them pointing fingers at each other and who the responsible party is.
Christina, are there any towns that do find the landscaper versus the resident?
Most of the towns do that I've looked into.
So they're giving the citation to the landscaper, not the resident.
So I don't know how they actually, execute their ordinance, but they do allow for dual responsibility. The landscaper as well as the homeowner can be issued a violation.
But that's exactly why we have in our borough ordinance that we hold, landscapers must be registered
Right.
in order to conduct business here.
Yes.
So, if they're gonna be, licensed to conduct business here, then they should be held to a higher standard than just,
Mhm.
your mom and pop, if we didn't have that ordinance in place, then I would say, maybe we wouldn't look to enforce against the landscaper, but because we have this heightened sense of responsibility to, for, or obligations for the landscaper, it's why we would name both.
I would have this, I would compare this to a situation with a contractor, right? So if you have a contractor going out to a home to do work and they don't have the requisite permits, both parties would then have some type of liability here, and the contractor can be issued a violation as well as the homeowner.
But who pays the fine?
That's for the judge to determine.
But my only question is, how do we know what landscapers work at what homes? Do they register for each home or only register to work
They
in town?
register to work in.
Right, so we have no way of knowing
You have
what.
to almost find them in the act.
In the
Yeah.
end, yeah.
I think that's why we were
Yeah.
warning residents, because
Correct.
I mean, I think that that's an enforcement issue that can be tweaked and worked out as time goes on if necessary. I mean, regardless of whether the ordinance stays as it stands, there's going to be an issue of enforcement and how you actually decide to issue violations if you see them in the act, or if if you just have someone patrolling the area to see who's responsible and who's doing the landscaping there.
And that's
I mean,
what we ultimately left with the resident.
The alternative to that is when the landscapers register or when they gain new homes to landscape, that they update the borough. But I don't necessarily know if that's something that the governing body would want to take on.
Okay, and then thank you, Christina. And then the only other update I'll give and then open up straight to discussion, or two items, excuse me, is we went back and forth on the bagged leaves. We talked about it last time. The farm doesn't take bagged leaves, so then it would introduce emptying the bags into the trucks, number one. And it also doesn't solve the issue of brush and leaf pickup in the fall and spring. So the flexibility of this is that it's a rolling leaf pickup to give the DPW the flexibility in rolling leaf pickup to pick the leaves whenever they're perceived. And they do very similar on the brush as well. I know Rich isn't here. And then the only other update too, just to give you guys so everybody, public doesn't have this, if anyone wants to see copies, more welcome to. This is some of the initial, I'll call it collateral, still a work in progress, but we've had quite a few residents call in, and as Betty Ann has educated them, she started to really boil down the bottom line up front. And probably the most advantageous one is this one pager that really breaks it down into zone 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then gives the residents QR codes where QA is, what their street list is, the municipal calendar, so that all the information is available. So these are not finalized, but again, we probably have 6 to 12 different thoughts on how we will educate over the course of the year, in order to continue educating and whatnot. So
can we launch, is that a good segue for open discussion?
let's go.
So, since the Brush and Leaf Committee kind of reported the findings, which was essentially a brand new program. I think of it as almost a program, offering a service offering that didn't exist before. Or it did in another form, but this is like a new thing. And better thing. There's gonna be increased services, our streets are gonna be cleaner, it's gonna help keep the river cleaner. It's gonna help to mitigate against spot flooding, hopefully, So there's a lot of good reasons for this, and I think these products or collateral, if you wanna call it, I will describe the program. And I would like to see us get to the point, separate from the ordinance, uncouple what we're talking about in terms, like the ordinance we could continue to talk about and work on, but the actual program and how it's gonna function and all the education, whether it's gonna be letters or a PDF that's textable and all the new apps that Kristen and I were just talking about. That's all stuff that we can start to engage the community in so that they can have the lead time needed to understand it, decide what part of it is gonna be appropriate for their household. Do they wanna get the green can? How do we get the green can? After I get the green can, where am I gonna put the green can? I have to conceal the green can. I might need to make some changes in order to do it. It's just normal things that people will go through. And I'm just gonna suggest, like, maybe we take the time to do that conversation and let there be a back and forth with the residents as they're learning what's been baking for a long time. And start to get that education and communication piece out there before there's an actual law. There doesn't need to be any enforcement while we're launching an idea and having a discussion. The reason I'm suggesting this is because, we're not, these are the residents we serve. We serve folks, friends and neighbors, and we're not parents instituting new household rules and explaining if you don't follow the rule, you're gonna get a correction. This is our chance to serve the community and improve something that could probably use some improvement. So I just want to suggest that perhaps we really get our communication pieces to a place where everybody here can sign off on, embrace it, run it past the brush and leaf committee, make sure they're on, get the communication piece really tight, and then start to share it. Before we have an ordinance that talks about going to court and, fines, and we can initiate the actual change in the program at any time. We could wait till next spring. We could start it when rolling leaf pickup can start in November. I mean, I'm not saying I have the optimal ideas to when it would start, but we know that we need to do the communication piece. And I don't think that, when would this start? March 22nd?
Well, the new brush camp pickup would start in May. Nothing changes
So
until
when
May.
I,
But they have to put stuff out. They have to understand the spring cleanup is different.
No, that's the same.
That's the same as we do now.
Spring cleanup is the same.
Brush
Okay,
and-
let's say it is.
No,
Let's
not say it is, it is the same.
Okay, it's the same. So we're talking about how many weeks do you think we need to talk about? Because I'm saying we could use up to 6 months to talk about this.
Why don't we need 6 months to talk about this?
I made up 6 months. Maybe we need 8 months. I don't really know, but I know. Because people are gonna have to make changes to their household
It's a
operations.
calendar.
can I ask you a
It's a
question?
calendar. Here's
So
your
when
calendar.
when I read this, it says that we have the ability to set the schedule every year. So this is all this ordinance gives us a lot of flexibility with this that can be tweaked. So we can pass the ordinance and then tweak this later. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm good with it.
And just real quick, right, just to put all the data points out there. The brush and leaf committee hasn't assembled this year. Their role concluded at the end of last year. It was based on all the door knocking and feedback as brush and leaf as the significant issue. And this was first raised back, right, so we took it offline, kept providing updates throughout the entire year in the public forum. And then back in the end of last year, September, October timeframe, I can't remember the exact date, is when this started being educated. I'm all for educating, and in fact, right, we changed the ordinance to provide a grace period in here, right, which is reflected in here. Originally, there was no grace period for any residents, and last year, or excuse me, the last governing body meeting, we said, hey, we should give a grace period so that.
Is it about 10 days?
10 days.
10 days to.
So, I just offer those data points, and I give that out there. I'm all for education. I'm gonna defer to the communications committee. You guys have been working, I've seen the emails coming through like significantly on this, even to the last year, right? So.
And on your handout, there's 3 pages there. So the first 2 would be double-sided.
Right.
But Ian just provided the third to
Right.
show you when they click on that QR code, that's the information that they're going to see. Just wanted to give you an overall.
Right.
So I think it's fair to say that a lot of thought already work went into this education piece with communication committees already. And I think so far what we're seeing, is very well done.
Yeah.
And I don't think our residents are going to have an issue understanding what we're doing. To Tracy's point, if she doesn't think we should fine people, if they want to throw out, something in it that says fines won't start until, September 1st or something, that's up to the governing body or the attorney to say whether you can do it or not. But I don't think implementing the program, and you have to pass the ordinance to implement the program. So, and we have to get the ordinance on for introduction at the next meeting and then adoption. So, we can't hold up the ordinance. So that has to move.
Well, we can, I'm not, listen, guys, I'm just gonna speak my mind here because I gotta feel right with myself. And you can introduce a program, which is separate from an ordinance. You can introduce a program that describes what's gonna happen, when, how you prepare for it, what sort of just, conversation you might have to determine whether or not you're gonna participate, how you participate, if you opt out, is there a downside? People might want to consider those sorts of things. You can talk about the program and introduce an ordinance at a time whenever it's determined to be appropriate. And you could even, and then decide when the program's gonna, or the actual program is gonna roll out. It could start at the beginning, it could start somewhere else in the calendar year. I don't know when that would be. I'm just concerned about this happening too quickly.
Yes, I just want to address your said, I said it last meeting, there's gonna be pain. There's gonna be pain when we roll it out, I agree with that, but we've built in 10 days to fix that pain. If you make a mistake, if you get it wrong, you have 10 days to fix it and get it right and not be penalized for it. I'm being told here, is this accurate, that nothing changes until May 7th?
Correct.
So by the time we would pass this, if we introduce it at the next meeting, you're gonna have 2 months to educate the public on this new plan. So I'm in a.
Your bandwidth, that's right. I mean,
I just looked at this calendar, the first 30 seconds I looked at, I was overwhelmed, and 2 minutes later, I was like, wow, this is great. It took me 2 minutes to really dive into it and understand, okay, that means that, that means that. Now, I'm not saying that everyone's gonna get that right from the beginning. We might have to go white glove service. We might get phone calls and emails, and if we have to address those and take those calls and walk them through, that's what we'll do. But I think the goal here is maybe there's some short-term pain for some long-term real improvement in the borough on what was a top 3 issue for our residents. So I mean, I'm based on what I've seen, I have some trepidation about the gray can, but I think this is a go.
A process, I see a committee and a lot of people have spent a lot of time and energy and effort digging in, and I feel like I want to trust the committee. They did their work, it looks good, and I don't think that I can sit here from 50,000 feet and make it better. Now, if we implement it and the phone is off the hook, then yeah, we need to change it. But I trust the committee is sort of where I end up.
Okay, well, I would just like to point out that there is a lot of contradiction in this. First of all, and I don't know if I'm referring to the particular section correctly. Section 16, 5.58, that has been referred to it.
16.5.
Right.
Christine, are you tracking along just so because I know you updated the subsection. This is a big piece for
Prohibited conduct?
16.
brush cans are only used for brush pickup and shall not be utilized for the pickup. That should be consistent throughout. There are a couple areas where that's
There's
still.
a lot of areas, and I'd like to
So
point out.
that-
Moving on this
Yeah,
documentation.
That's one of the questions that I
Okay.
think was up for
So
discussion
under
tonight.
Section 16, 5.6, 2, brush and leaves can be containerized. Should follow people around.
Okay.
Under section 16.55 C, section 2, again, it says leaves can be containerized or
Yes.
not containerized.
Got it.
Councilwoman, I think that that's one of the questions that were up for discussion today that I need clarification on can the residents have 2 brush cans, one for leaves and one for brush, or is it just a container for brush? And the ordinance, the way it's written now,
It's gonna be very confusing, and then what do you do? Mark one container leaves, one
The
container
brush
brush?
can only. It should not be doing leaves at all.
So now you're
Okay.
in section 16-5.72. Leaves or any other yard or vegetative waste shall not be placed in the brush can. So I think a lot of this, as a resident, I would be confused because it seems to be contradictory. And then in this one, I don't even know if you have that.
She doesn't have this.
Okay. The two lower left corners. May residents place grass or yard waste in the gray can. No, the gray can is used specifically for brush during May through September and for brush or leaves during the spring cleanup, right there.
Yeah, okay.
And then in the lower right-hand corner, it says, for rolling pickup, all zones may place their leaves at their curb line or in the gray can.
Got it.
Do you
Contradictory.
understand
Yep, check, check.
why it
I
was
got it.
so contradictory?
Also that the other one during spring and fall cleanup, may I use the new gray can as well as place brush and leaves in my curb line, that's not exactly.
Yeah, we'll clean it
That's-
up.
Doesn't
And again,
clarify.
Babs hasn't been in the conversations with Christina, so this was just like a commercial,
I
a visual
do-
representation.
I had one other question, under prohibited material, section 16-7.1.
Hang on a second, let me get there. 16-7.1, check.
Should yard waste be a prohibited material?
Gotta look at the
The way
definition.
they, yeah, so you've got to go back to the definition.
Christina, what do you think? Clean it up and make that just say yard waste?
We're looking at section 16-7.1, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
You
That
crossed out
doesn't-
tree trimmings, tree stumps, brush, leaves, and left in grass clippings, but prior to this, when you referred to yard waste, it was supposedly in violation. So do you want to include that under prohibited materials?
We can, the reason that I included that in this version is because this is a different section, section 16.7. So the ordinance that we were focusing on for brush and leaf is 16-5. And we can either add in yard waste into B, or we can just, in that first paragraph in 16-7.1, just refer to the new section of the brush and leaf ordinance, just as trash and recyclables is in that first sentence. So I think as long as there's a reference to either one, it would be consistent.
And Christina, the reasoning behind this was you went through all of our ordinances, right? And you saw how much stuff was fragmented, so this sought to streamline all of that, correct?
Yeah, so this is in the same chapter, and so tree trimmings, tree stumps, brush and leaves, B is obviously contradictory.
This ordinance-
So-
Right, so are you going to suggest what to do with yard waste? I mean, what are people supposed to do with it? Just put it in their regular trash can? Yeah. That's the option.
Yeah.
Did we
Okay.
have different options before? That was the option before. That's
Well, people
We
used
were
to
in the
throw it out
legally
with
doing.
everything.
Yeah.
like in their
Well, in the
leaf box.
past, we handled it with how we collected it. In the spring is when you tend to get yard waste, because people will clear out, you know, their beds and all of that stuff. So we took it to a different, when they would put it out, with, you know, their brush or their leaf, we take it to a different vendor.
But that's
That's
gonna
the
have to
mixed
be
waste.
So now we're not.
really
For a higher
specifically
fee.
addressed, because people are just gonna throw it all together.
Correct, and that's where the enforcement piece comes in,
Well,
right?
that's
It's-
where
it's-
the communication and education piece.
Well,
Nobody's
that's-
gonna read this ordinance. The residents, this is not everybody reading for a resident.
Correct, the ordinance is the law and the direction, and then the three pieces required, right, are the scheduling, the communication, and the enforcement. Education's part of communication, so.
But Rich did say when it was leaf season, he didn't care whether they put their leaves in the gray can or in the street.
Correct, but the
confused
feedback was
people.
that it confuses it, so just have them put the leaves out, brush cans for the can only, or for the brush only.
Right. But we were getting rid of yard waste and now we're not.
And we were not
We
getting.
never were, people were just throwing it in their
Yeah,
piles.
well, she's saying that Chris is saying.
As a matter of practicality, we knew when, at that time, we would pick it up when it was all mixed together and take it to a different vendor.
And we pay for
Yeah.
it, right? All the leaves get brought to the farm, right? And then the brush goes to the brush grinding site. It's not meant to take on full trees, so it's hard to compare apples to apples, because the yard waste shouldn't be going, and we've been paying the extra tonnage fee, so.
And we can utilize technology, you know, as we know, there's an app, which I highly suggest everyone downloads, called Recycle Coach, that a lot of other towns use. So this morning, you put your address in, an alert pops up. I got an alert this morning at 6 a.m. It's garbage collection day, put your garbage out. We can set it for brush and leaf, and we should. Betty Ann's actually looking into it. She's gonna have a conversation with them. We're already up there. We're already using it. I loved it. This morning I came out of the gym. I was like, you're right, Monday morning, I gotta take my garbage cans out. So recycle coach.
Does that link up to the
And I don't own
new
the
Apple
company, so
Vision goggles?
Not an advertisement. It's great. So.
I still think in 16.5.5, you should say shall be made out of plastic or rubber.
Do you see what?
They are made out of rubber trash cans.
One more time, Teresa?
I think in 16.5.5 shall be made out of, it's plastic, or say plastic or rubber material. There are, even, it's not just because there's a company called Rubbermaid, but trash cans are made out of rubber.
Check.
Also, you say they have to, everyone's required to fashion holes. It just seems like that might be sticking point for some people, just because we're asking maybe some older residents to
Yeah.
put holes in.
That was guidance given by DPW directly, I believe, right?
Maybe Faraday Hardware can do the holes for the customers before they get them.
I think this should be stricken.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But maybe
problem
they can
is,
still put the holes
It's
in.
actually a good idea.
Maybe, maybe they're not.
Because if it holds water on a rainy day, it's very heavy for our guys to pick
We're
up.
gonna have a lot of
Okay.
workers' comps.
I'll talk to Fairhaven Hardware.
Could our DPW, the first time they go around, not bring a drill and?
We could discuss that. I
Yeah.
thought you could do both. You can talk to Fairhaven Hardware and.
That's you
If
can
they're
know.
willing.
I'll do it.
That's okay.
They'll drill?
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
Okay.
She used to drill for oil.
I will talk to Fairhaven Hardware and I'll report that.
Then I'll go over to Fairhaven Hardware and drill it.
Got you.
The camping was a sticking point at our internal meeting,
Yes, this is,
where Nick had brought up the flagpole and
yeah,
Nick and Rich.
from a
decided
durability perspective,
flagpole.
right, the water, the whole nine, so there's multiple different types. It can come with wheels, without wheels.
And I have one last thing.
Please, yes, this is
I'm
great.
sorry, I'm bothering.
Don't, it's no problem.
Anyway, there should be mentioned somewhere here that like the other trash cans that we have, the recycling can and the trash can, you are not allowed to see the can from the road.
Christina, I know we referenced the landscaping ordinance in here, right? We made reference to it. Can we make
Correct.
reference to that other ordinance as well that Betsy just highlighted?
I think it's.
Yes.
because some people just don't have enough room for all of that. I did not know his name.
Or if I know I have a location where my trash can and recycle can are concealed and out of sight, but I don't have room for a third can. There's other places I can put it, but if I wanted to keep it with my cans, it's not obvious, there's no obvious way for me to do it. I'd have to figure out where else I'm gonna do that, and I'd probably have
Fair.
to bring somebody in to maybe tweak, build something, it's an assignment. I'd have to put that on my project.
I mean, maybe, right? I mean, the can is a third of the size of the current trash and recycling cans, right? Those are 95-gallon monsters, right? This is a 32-gallon,
Yeah,
much
some people
smaller.
have smaller ones.
Yeah, sure, those are.
Not too
four-
many anymore,
Or just staying like.
No, no,
I don't know, I'm just saying that
Put it
some
some-
people have that option. To have the smaller ones.
I'm trying to point out
Education.
that we need to give folks a window of time. Not just to understand what's gonna happen, but to then accommodate those changes. I know that takes time, and I don't know how much time.
So I'm gonna say in the 13 years I've been here, I don't think we listed one summons for someone that didn't seal their garbage cans. Basically, fundamentally, it's an educational piece. Once we pointed out that people would use it because they just didn't know.
And to prevent them from leaving it out 24/7.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's an ordinance for it.
Yep, we'll
Okay,
reference
so-
it in here.
Here's why I think I need some clarification and Councilwoman Cole, this is to you. So if we roll this out, if we pass this and we roll it out, but we do start fines, we do like a 6-month window of no fines. I know that you had mentioned last time that like, if we have an ordinance, it's silly to put it out and not issue fines.
We're
right
gonna
now.
have to amend the ordinance.
Yeah.
If we're gonna.
You
say
could do a
that it's not-
moratorium on enforcement.
You could say fines are effective as of September 1st or something, if you so desire.
Well, that's a way perhaps, Michael and Christina, you just you know, if we troubleshoot this and we get the mechanics right, and the can buying program is figured out, we know we're gonna drill the holes, and folks know where their cans are gonna go, and how heavy it's gonna be, whether they're in or they're out, or, you know. Maybe there's a moratorium during the first year of the program.
But what's the difference between that and giving everybody 10 days to correct the issue with no fine or anything?
I think that the difference is, I mean, administratively, just the exercise of going through all of the ones, the correction of the paperwork. But I also think it's like an obvious acknowledgement of the big change we're proposing to make and impose on everybody, like for good reason, but I'm suggesting we think carefully about this.
But even if we gave a moratorium, we would still want code enforcement to go out and put a warning on someone's, to say you're wrong on this. So if he's doing the same thing anyway, and you still have 10 days to fix it, I don't understand why we're spending so much time on that piece of the puzzle.
I guess for me, because I want to serve my friends and neighbors in a way that isn't punitive.
But
I
that's-
understand the need for grace notes, we'll call it, instead of warnings, whatever we want to call it, but it's a friendly reminder, the program works this way. Please bear in mind that this is the way it works, please do it.
But if you get a grace note, you don't have to fix it. So you're not really teaching them how to do it the right way. It's like, you know, telling your kid, you gotta clean up
They're not
your
our
plate and
kids.
bring it in the sink.
They're not our kids.
But the residents that need to follow an ordinance, we're all living in a community together. It's a community
right.
of residents that are all working together, you know, for the system to have a positive impact. And so to just say, oh, no, you don't have to clean up your plate and bring it to the sink. I told you about it and you don't have to do it for another 6 months, but I'll keep telling you about it. Doesn't really make any sense.
I just really object to the comparison of our fellow residents as being children. We're not
You
your
can,
parents.
you know, I can use the same exact similarity with something else and not call them children. It's the same exact thing.
But if we back up, right, real quick on the enforcement piece, right? And we had Brock come into the Brush and Leaf Committee and talk about how people were blatantly ignoring the enforcement of it and willing to take the fine just to leave it out there, right? So it's one of many pieces that has to go into it. The grace period, right? We changed it to go from giving them an initial ordinance. And we even do grace periods with a lot of our different ordinances to give them time now, right? You mentioned at the last meeting how you got fined, not a fine, you got a notice and then you had to reconcile after 10 days, right?
Absolutely.
Right, so.
Well, I'm maybe the only person that feels this way, so I've shared my views and
When we roll out the tree ordinance, do you want to give people that illegally cut a tree down 10 days to, you know, you don't want to fine them for the first 6 months if they illegally cut their tree down? Let's be consistent.
Point taken.
Did you have anything else to raise your hand for?
No, I think we talked about, there's a couple.
Yep.
I think
So,
This one too.
yep. So Christina, the brush can is for brush only. We'll take out reference to the leaves. We will do alignment on 16-7.1 with yard waste. I like the idea of, you know, centralizing the ordinances and not having them in disparate locations, but to Betsy's point,
I think, yeah, there's something we're gonna have to discuss regarding that.
that section.
Understood.
okay.
Okay, I actually have one more question. So just to confirm. If we implement this and it rolls out, we're finding there's like issues with certain ways that we've put in. We don't have to go to the ordinance and write the ordinance. We can just change
That's
this.
what Brian said.
That's what you said. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I just want to make a recommendation going forward when we have an ordinance like this that we received in advance. I sent my feedback to Drew. I'm not saying I do this every time. I'm not perfect, but I would love for all of us to do the same. So that we can get to a place where everything, all the feedback is consolidated and we're spending this meeting talking about how to move things forward, rather than breaking it apart live. We've had plenty of time to digest this.
It'd also be really great too. I recommend everybody on the days and work with Teresa on reaching out to Babs. She has fielded dozens of calls over the last several months on this. And she has a really great pulse on the feedback and I'll let you talk to her with what her assessment is of what needs to happen.
I would also include the legal changes, so she understands them to implement into this
Yeah, well, yep, this is pure draft, it was just to show, get like some eyes
These are a
on.
work in progress. We'll update them with communications to make sure that they jive with what the intended ordinance is.
And can I say one last thing?
Please.
I just hope that the fact that it's in the calendar is not what is driving the passage of this ordinance, because even though it's in the calendar, I don't think it should have been in the calendar until it was approved. And just the fact that the calendar was published or ready for publication the end of December, we could have put an online calendar with all of this in it. It didn't have to go to print the way it did, and I just don't want the calendar being the driving force.
Understood.
All right, moving along, public comment on agenda items only. This is only for agenda items. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please try to observe a time limit of 3 minutes.
I will do my best. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I totally agree with Tracy. Bill Perkins, after Fairhaven. I agree with what Tracy's trying to do in terms of whether I'm for this or against it. I think that there needs to be an educational process along the way. I talked to 8 of my neighbors who have not a clue that this is coming down the road. Regardless of what you say about resident engagement and it's in the calendar and whatever else, they don't know anything about it. With that said, I have a procedural question. So is it common public law policy to publicly announce and distribute to all residents notification that a law has been changed before that change in law has even formally been introduced to be voted on as a law?
So are you saying because the calendar was put out there?
Calendar put out, calendar says, this is it, this is fact, it is a can, you need to have the can, blah, 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 blah. We talk about it being a proposal, it's not a proposal, the council is gonna do it. We
Well,
said it's law.
No, I didn't say it was law. Because the ordinance has not been introduced.
Correct. Procedurally, it shouldn't have been in the calendar until it was law. That's my intention. One under the bridge at this point.
Understood.
I'll let you keep going. Can I just address that real
So
quick?
while the town may have until May to actually pass the change in the brush ordinance, it was premature to be notifying people that the change is officially made ready. The legal process to make and change an ordinance, I understand to be quite clear. An ordinance must be publicly introduced. You must solicit public comment, and then, and only then, can you vote on approving the ordinance. What we have done here, quite frankly, is very disingenuous. The ordinance hasn't even been officially introduced, let alone voted on, yet notification has been disseminated to everyone that it is in fact the law. Actions like this only instill and reinforce a level of distrust for government and actually rub people's faces in the notion that their voices don't matter. Government is doing what they want to do regardless. It's very disappointing to me.
I think practically speaking, it's fair to say that the ordinance, this ordinance and our prior ordinance says that we set the schedule annually. And as a matter of course, the governing body in the fall, prior to usually the October, November meeting, approved the brush and leaf schedule. We've changed the months through the years
I'm not
and,
talking about the schedule. We're saying it can now is necessary.
but my point is that the ordinance has that flexibility in it. And, you know, we didn't do this in the dark of night. We knew we were publishing the calendar and, you know, we put it out there. Either the calendar is gonna be wrong or blank, and we made a judgment call. Like, the judgment call is not legality. It's not about the
No.
ordinance.
The calendar
No,
says
that's-
at the bottom of the calendar, I forget what month it is, but it says subject to change because we're gonna negotiate a contract with the new partner. That same verbiage, something similar to that could have said, we're considering a change in the ordinance, or stay tuned for more information.
So if we put that disclaimer on the back of the calendar, you feel much better about the way that we operate as a government?
Yes,
That line?
yes,
Then
because
next time we'll be sure to
well,
put that on the calendar.
that's my point, because that's where I took the response, that's not,
Well,
next
no.
time, no, I'm saying
It's,
that there's a public procedure for a reason that, why don't we just put up the no signs on Fairhaven Road tonight? We don't have to wait for the ordinance. We can just put up
because
the
we
signs
didn't,
and then
because we didn't have
can-
to print a calendar in January that listed all the spots we were gonna put parking
Yeah,
lots. If
that's
we
the
did,
point.
we probably would have put that up there because it was anticipated that it probably was
Well,
gonna pass.
then you could have said that in the calendar, it's
And I
anticipated.
just addressed that. Next time we'll take that into account. We will. But in this situation, it is a very fine line. We have to, if we don't put it in there, then we haven't shared at all what our potential schedule is gonna be with our residents. We could have went with last year's schedule. And then if we rolled out this schedule, Bill, then we're gonna have much more confusion. We're gonna have mass confusion amongst everyone. It did seem at the time like there was support on the dais for passing this new brush and leaf ordinance. It did. So they made a judgment call at the time as far as what to put in the calendar. I'm not saying that your feedback is not warranted, but it's kind of a lose-lose when it comes to the calendar and based on the timeline of what we were trying to do. It was,
I have another question.
sure.
So apparently everyone on the council is in favor of the new brush can, which
No.
is okay, but however, how many, other than Councilwoman Barbara Rivera, knows what the brush canning looks like? How many of you have seen this actual brush can? But my question is, how big, we all know it's gray, but how big is the can? So I just heard tonight for the first time, and I've been attuned to this thing, as to how big the brush can is. So it's 32, only 32 gallons, you make it sound like that's a lot. You're saying it's an increase in service, but I could fill up my whole front yard, my whole curb line with brush. Now I have two opportunities to fill up a 32-gallon can.
You have that.
Not the same thing.
What do you mean you have two opportunities?
I'm going to pick it up twice a month, so I can fill up my can twice.
Per month.
Whereas I could have filled up my whole 80 feet of front yard.
Only
with
once
brush.
per-
Once a month, yes, but a whole,
You still do that in the fall and the spring.
yes, but not in May, June, July,
How
or
much,
September.
Brush, right, that's not.
I'm just saying, there's a little bit of a spin on this, that it's an increase, but nobody's looking at the downside of it. If I'm not home in March or April, whenever they put out my brush, that's what I said in my letter, I'm screwed, because now I have to put it in a can. I get 4-inch piles of brush in my backyard already, waiting for the time that I can put it out.
you have
They're
other,
not gonna fit in a
you
can.
have other options too, though. If you're not home, you can hire a landscaper. They can put your brush out for you, Bill. And the true downside is the brush and leaf schedule that we have now. That's the downside, because it's been a disaster. And that's why we got to where we're at. That's why we picked residents that are peers of ours to study this thing and try and come up with something that's gonna benefit all the residents of Fairhaven. Now, are we gonna get it perfect? I don't think so. I think we're gonna be back in here discussing something that we need to tweak or we need to improve, but that's part of the process.
That's great, and tweaking is great, but if a year from now, after I lay out the money and build a fence to screen my garbage can, you say, oh, we're not gonna do the can anymore, we're gonna go back to the way it was.
It's possible.
Yeah, but that's not the way to go into it, we should be going into it, that this is the plan, we're gonna stick to it, and maybe it just has to be tweaked. But we shouldn't be going into it that, oh, well, if we have to scrap it, it is what it
But
is.
that's any ordinance we've done in here. We've been very clear that
There's
we
no,
may pivot.
it's not the same, you're not comparing apples and apples. You know, parking signs, you take the parking
Right.
sign down.
Okay, well, what else?
That,
A tree ordinance. We do a tree ordinance and then we don't like the tree ordinance, we go back to the old one. We do land use laws. We don't like the land use laws, we go back to the
have
old
somebody
one.
build a house and then tell them they gotta take the house down. I mean, that's.
We're building a house, building a great garbage can. It's a $25 great garbage can, Bill.
I also want to know where and when there's gonna be a specification on what this garbage can is. Because as I understand it, based on the public procurement law, we cannot make it a proprietary item. Correct?
Yes, so
So we can't say that Fairhaven Hardware You have to get it from there,
No.
even though 99.9%.
We're not gonna say that, yep.
Fair and hardware store and buy it, that's fine, but you have to give people the option, if we're not gonna publicly bid this.
Correct, and we first went over the specs back in October in the public forum, right, it's been disseminated and everything. Fairhaven Hardware is merely a means of a potential to get it, because they're gonna give us a very advantageous cost, but by no means do you not need to go there. We don't make it brand specific, we worked with, I don't know where she is anymore. We worked with Christina to specifically articulate to make sure that it made the most sense.
I'm here. There's no brand specific. It's just basically the gallons, the material, rubber or plastic, and
Wheels
the
are
size.
Does it have to have a cover? Does it not have to have a cover? How much weight can it hold? Is there a limit? How many pounds I can put in this thing? Does it have to have a lid on it? Does it not have to have a lid? No.
It does not have to have a lid, and it could be up to 32 gallons.
32 gallons is the can, but how much does it have to, can it weigh?
I don't think we've specified that.
I think there's a one.
Yeah.
There's only so much you can put in it.
Okay. And then my last question was how much time? Because I've talked to my neighbors and they have no idea that they physically have to go out and purchase this can. They think it's gonna be like the other cans that they have, where somebody magically delivers it to their driveway and they have this can. So now they physically have to go out and get this can. When they turn to the May page in the calendar, and it says all of a sudden your brush has to be in a can. How much time, 10 days, we're giving them 10 days if they don't have the can? I mean, is that, you seem to think 10 days is enough. I think that people need more than 10 days to acquire the can.
We're gonna have 2.5 months. If
But people
He's
don't
saying
even
once
know
they get
this.
to May and they get a
It's wrong. The last meeting, there was less than that. You're saying this is all been public, I agree, it's a public forum, it's all been disseminated
No,
publicly.
we haven't sent this out yet. This
I
is
know,
going to go out, but
And technically,
But it's not.
that shouldn't go out until the ordinance is passed.
and it
correct?
won't, it won't.
It won't.
No.
So when the ordinance is passed and it's already February,
You think, but to answer your question, you think that if someone gets if once we've sent this out.
Right.
And then we roll out the new schedule, someone gets a summons because they do it the wrong way.
Right.
You think that 10 days isn't enough time for someone to go get a garbage can?
no,
Well, why?
I'm saying because people work.
I
They have
understand that.
jobs, they not,
Okay.
I don't agree. For a number of reasons, but I don't think that. I
Okay.
happen to agree with Tracy that I think there should be a rollout to this as a totally new, this is a totally new program. That obviously the council has decided and had decided that they were gonna implement.
You know, you can.
I stood up in this meeting in December, of the December 18th meeting and asked questions about this can, and then go home and find this in my mailbox 2 weeks later that says it's a done deal, but the council is saying it's a proposed ordinance. There is
No,
no
I'm up
proposal.
here, you realize, and Drew will even tell you, I've been against the can, but I'm for the entire thing because I think it's gonna improve what we're doing. But you realize you can go on Amazon Prime right now and order a can, it'll be here tomorrow, right? So why is 10 days not enough time for someone to get a can? I'm not understanding that. I don't understand it.
I think you have to give people time. Get the can to drill the
All right.
hole.
Well,
And the whole,
Just so
the
you know-
notion, just for the record, the notion, because that becomes a whole other issue, but the notion that we're not enforcing the concealing of the garbage can now, so therefore if we have another can added to the non-disclosed
we're
can.
enforcing it.
No, I'm saying,
I said we never issued a summons, because generally speaking, when we go to a resident, we tell them they're compliant.
okay. But I think we should be compliant, we should, if we have another can, we need to make sure that it's not visible. We don't want it to look like shit.
just so we're clear about the timeline, we will go, if the council approves, we will introduce it on February 26th. And then I believe we would vote on March 11th.
And I'm sure we'll have our
And then
communications in good shape by that time.
So what level, what percentage of completion would you say these are?
I think they're about, 80-90%, I think they're in pretty good shape. There's some tweaks we have to do, but I don't think it's gonna take that long at all.
Have we, I know at one point when I was involved, we were talking about, sort of test groups, small test groups, so we could get feedback from residents who coming in cold, you know, because that's what
I believe our last
Talk about
communications meeting,
neighbors don't understand.
Councilwoman DiMichelli had volunteered to show this to some people, as did Councilman Howie, and I believe that they will be bringing that feedback back to our next, communications meeting.
I think that's a good idea.
And with the ordinance being introduced, I mean, can place it in the bus and say, please be advised, the state's introduced, hearing and adoption is on this date, so people can.
And
I would
You
make
think they're gonna
changes
leave it?
first.
I'd send,
I would hope so.
send this to Bill tomorrow too, but, and I mean it, let him give feedback on what he sees. And it sounds like he's talking to a lot of neighbors that, don't, and let him show it to them too, give us feedback on how we can improve the communication lanes. Anyone else on agenda items? Yes, come on up, Barney.
Listening to all of this, morning, everyone, 33 Hants Road. I would just say, and I know there's been a lot of work devoted to trying to fix something that we all think is broken. But I also have to say, I agree with a lot of what Bill said. I agree with Tracy. Look at it from, you've devoted so much time and energy to this, but nobody on this side of the dais knows really what's going on with it. And there have been changes along the way as well. So just keep in mind that you don't want people to perceive this as being punitive. You want them to see this as a benefit. So how do you sell benefit? And that's what I would say is the most important thing, and to avoid getting the pushback that I'm starting to hear too, like Bill is. So just from my side on over here, try to present it to be as beneficial as possible, as educational as possible, as much time as possible, and look at it as though you've never seen it before. And now it's coming to your house.
I talked about the benefit as the environmental commission liaison. One of the main things that we talk about is stormwater and flooding and having debris in the streets clogs the sewers, and having it in the can instead will help. And so I don't want to speak for the environmental commission, but it is a major topic that we talk a lot about. It's very frustrating. It's hard to solve the problem. This, I think, will help.
And I'm just throwing this out there, but when we rolled out the bulk pickup, how did we do that? And was that successful? Maybe that's something we can just look at. Because we made a big change
We
by,
made a big change, and we did the same thing. We, notified the residents and sent out, information, and it, word got around,
and that was an ordinance that we.
There is a, Marty, there's a section here which I'm sure we can improve. Why the new brush and leaf pickup schedule? It's actually at the top of the Q&A. It gets into the nuts and bolts a little bit of why we're doing it. So we'll take a look at it and see if we can even further improve it. Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Civia 115 Baton. This is a problem. I mean, I know in Baton, it maybe takes 2 days after pickup before someone puts more stuff out on the curb. So it's constant, there are constantly piles, and people are going down to the boat ramp and everybody's driving, weaving down the road. So, and I don't know if it's the landscapers. I mean, it is the person's responsibility to tell their landscapers when to put the stuff out. I do, even though I don't really put much out, which is what I also wanted to bring up as an educational piece. I mean, you can leave, it's not a crisis if you have leaves and sticks in your yard. I mean, it's really not. I mean, it's like I think we're all obsessed, or maybe I used to be, I'm not anymore, with this neatness. But if people just put a bed around the edge of their yard, they could put their leaves over there and their sticks after the storm and wait it out if they need to get rid of them, or just let it break down and save the DPW a lot of time and effort. I mean, there was so much benefit to leaving that natural, nutrient-rich stuff from the trees in our yards. And if we just, I mean, obviously neatness is, we want to look nice, but it is an option. I mean, I have a leave and leave signs that I have to put up, and it's just definitely part of the educational piece.
But that's really helpful, because Councilwoman, DiMichele and I are gonna put a letter together to accompany all of this when it gets sent out, and I think that that's a really important component that we should add, so thank you.
And also coordinating with some of the committees and commissions, like the Environmental Commission and the Green Team, especially the Green Team, in getting this message out. And maybe it's the Green Team who could make recommendations on like leaving leaves and stuff like that.
Or
So
even in the online, Betty Ann's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legal leaves.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I like that, leave the leaves.
We actually have, we actually have one of those already.
Leave the leaves?
She has a whole thing of that.
It's like,
No, this is.
Yeah, she has one, I think, mulching them, leaving the, your grass.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Never saw that.
I can tell you, my soil is better, my plants are healthier because I do that, so.
All right, thank you.
It's not.
Thank you, Bonnie. Anyone else? Agenda items only? No? Allison, anyone? Wait, did I miss someone?
Yeah.
We're good?
Replace.
Hi, Ruth.
Good evening. Everybody sit back and take a deep breath. This whole thing is unnecessary. For decades, the leaves have been being picked up. You put them at the curb and they disappear when the DPW had time. And that was pretty regular because the people who worked for the DPW, a lot of them lived in town and they had a dog in the fight, as it were. They wanted the town to look good. Now, bear in mind, the leaves at the curb haven't killed anybody. And frankly, I don't think they caused that much of a problem for clogging the sewers and things like that. I know when I put mine out, I put them out at least a foot from the curb so that the water can flow between the curb and the leaves. The problem I see with this leaf thing is that the Department of Public Works and the engineer, if they sat down and actually used their training and knowledge with the fact that Mother Nature drops leaves in the fall and gardens have to be cleaned in the spring, could work out a way to do this. Now, if they're going to drive down the street and empty the cans, they can drive down the street and pick up the stuff at the curb. No cans involved. We are now, all this time, the pickup has been included in our taxes. Now we have to pay $25 extra just to have something done that was done inclusive before. The seniors are going to find it difficult. I don't think they have been given enough consideration in this thing. And the second part, other than the DPW getting their act together and actually looking at this, is that I don't know how many times I've put my leaves out at the required time and they weren't picked up for a week or two, which means they've got to adhere to their schedule too. The second part is that the police department seems to feel it is beneath their dignity to issue leaf and brush summonses because there hasn't been that much enforcement. And when I have mentioned this to different people in authority, it's been sort of a shoulder shrug. And that's exactly what it is. It's a lack of coordination with schedules and enforcement. This whole thing is not necessary.
Thank you, Ruth.
Yes.
Allison, is there anyone else?
No.
All right, moving along, we are at approval of minutes, January 22nd, 2024 regular meeting and executive session. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul? Yes.
DiMaselli?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Kyle?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes. Thank you. Old business, hearing and adoption, ordinance number 2024-01, supplement chapter 7, traffic sections 14, 15, and 21. Do I have a motion to open the hearing?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is there anyone in the public that wants to comment on this? Okay, do I-
This is the hearing and adoption on the,
on the street signs down Fairhaven Road.
I just have one question for Chief. I know that there was a question I had about signs and the frequency of signs. How many signs are gonna be required?
Whatever the minimum is, we originally talked about last time, every 50 feet,
Is
that
that
would be at every house.
Yeah, you know, you like to say you have the stop sign, so there'll be nothing there, there'll be a sign there, and then it would be, but they try, to only put them on the property line, so, you know, if the property line is 60 feet, you're gonna put on the property. In between, and we have 2 or 3 properties there, or something there.
Well, is there any way we can bank them so that we don't need so many? Or is that?
Not whatever, minimum,
Whatever is required by law, we'd have to.
I spoke to Rich today and I haven't had a chance to speak to the chief yet, but what we thought would be best is that the traffic safety officer coordinated the layout of the signage with the public works, and we also have to put a line item, we have to up our budget, signs are not cheap, so we're gonna need to get an idea of how many signs when they come up with their plan, not make sure there's enough money in the budget.
yeah, whatever the minimum, we'll do, we do usually meet before they put sign up, mark down, so, you know, we'll do our very best to put them at the property.
So it's pretty much on every house.
Probably that property there, probably at least 80 feet of the property.
And I will have to say, when you have a 2-hour minimum, you're gonna have to mark tires, that's enforcement, police have to come around with chalk on tires to make sure that people are parking for 2 hours.
I have the information I need, thank you.
Anyone else have any comments on this? Do I have a motion to close?
Motion.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Do I have a motion to approve or deny, whatever?
motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Cole,
Yes.
Maselli,
Yes.
Bowie,
Yes.
Yes,
Rivera,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Thank you. Moving along, council committee reports, finance, police, fire, and OEM, borough facilities, Councilman Barbera.
Thanks, Mayor. Next Finance Committee meeting, 9 Feb. Police, fire, and OEM. We'll have the follow-up of the interviews, at the next governing body meeting, and we'll talk about it further in executive session. Borough facilities, don't forget that the color selection and the roof selection for the PD and Community Center is up in Teresa's office. Please take a look at it. We'll be looking at the end of this month to make a recommendation so we can start the supply chain ordering process for that.
We got larger roof samples.
Yeah, they came in, which is great. Remember, take them outside in the natural light. DPW, we had a small groundbreaking, on the 29th. We were successfully able to do the door knocking, to the 30 residential homes, give or take, around the DPW site. I'm just looking, we're looking to, use the same software that we are with the PD and Community Center.
Did you see my email on that today?
No.
Okay.
Maybe?
Maybe.
Okay, we'll come back to it. It's all part of the soft cost and everything we do. On the PD and Community Center, I just want to take a minute here. So obviously you have the change order guidance. The project is on schedule, if not slightly ahead, just to correct the record. The slab is going to be poured for both facilities, the PD and the Community Center this week. And what we've been gearing up for, and I'm gonna ask Teresa to forward out to all governing body members, is the steel delivery. Remember, has to take place through the 3rd Street and come down the park. We've requested the logistics plan, the map of how they're getting here from out of town. It's the documentation is excruciating. So we'll forward it out.
Didn't I send that out already, or I just sent it to committee?
I think you sent it to the committee.
Okay.
We'll send it out to the governing body. We'll be communicating with the public. They will not be delivering the steel before 9 or after 2, so that there's no possibility of impacting the kids. Chief, I think he's back there. Chief will have his officers, supporting, taking every, precaution that we need with this. This gives me heartburn. Just because it's a deviation and we're going across the 3rd Street Trail. Paul's been great. We'll make sure the 3rd Street Trail, excuse me. Off 3rd Street Community Center. They'll restore it. They're gonna camera the infrastructure to make sure that none of the drywall there get damaged. They're going above board. But big there. Moving on, Bicentennial Hall. We had our first stakeholder meeting on the 25th, which went fantastic. We kind of outlined a 4-part component plan, broken down into the ADA upgrades, this punch list, historical maintenance, and then potential further design. The stakeholder group is made up of all key stakeholders across the town, the committees, historic commissions, et cetera. We're looking to have Sherry Sparrow, our CTE. She's coming on Thursday to do a walk through the DPW site to make sure that hall is very familiar with the landscaping plan for DPW and the trees that are coming out and everything. She also has a tree permit, and as an economies of scale, we wanted her to do an assessment of the landscape around Bicentennial Hall. As part of, you know, the aspects of just really bringing the Bicentennial Hall back. So probably send out the component plan. Yeah, I think she'll be here this Thursday. We gotta finalize time. So we'll probably send out the component plan just so everybody can take a look at it. Slow and steady wins the race with the exception of the 88 grant, which we've already provided guidance. We need to get that out to bid soonest so that it can get done soonest, because the Monmouth County came back and said, hey, like if it's not done by the state, you can have a one-time extension, but it's only a one-time extension.
We're getting that extension that way.
Yeah, the state filed.
LST. The CDBG grant for, are we requesting the extension?
Yes, I sent them the letter.
So just 2 takeaways for everybody. Please take a look at the color selection upstairs and the roof tiles. We want to decide that on the 26th meeting. And be on the lookout for the component plan for Bicentennial Hall, as well as the steel delivery plan. Any questions, comments, shoot it back. But that's everything that I have unless there's any questions.
Regarding that extension, there's a resolution on tonight's agenda.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
50
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Barbera. Moving along, personnel, Borough Communications, Community Outreach, and Parks and Recreation. Councilwoman Poe.
Sure, start with personnel. The Borough Administrator search continues. I'm gonna give everybody an update, more deep dive update tonight in executive session. But we're making great progress, and so I'm happy to share the details of that. Police, Drew already mentioned. DPW, we're gonna be reviewing, I think Rich and Nick are already reviewing resumes for a couple of the open positions. And then we're finalizing job description for our new CFO, and hope to have that posted in the next couple of weeks. Parks and Rec, just 2 quick updates. One being, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, that PTA had mentioned they're willing to at least explore the funding of new playground equipment. We did get an updated quote on a Gaga pit. It blew my mind, the cost of a Gaga pit, but anyway. We have that quote now. We're gonna meet tomorrow night as a committee. Hope to move forward with PTA funding, some more to come, but it looks like it's gonna be successful.
Where would that go?
The Gaga pit, Siggles.
McCarter Park.
Sorry,
Carter
McCarter
So
Park.
that'll have to come back here before, so we can see where and what it is.
Right,
Okay.
well, yes, yes.
And DJ and Rich have already gone and scoped out the
They
area.
scoped out the area, we got the quote, the PTA board went with them, yes.
Yeah, he had a meeting in McCarter Park with Board of Ed, PTA,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Just so I'm saying something that makes sense, I'm assuming improvements to public lands get signed off here at council. Whether it's
Yeah,
a
I don't
Gaga
need
pit or-
something as official as a resolution, and certainly if
We
you're
just
off,
need to see
you
it,
know,
yeah.
Kristen's update, if everyone's okay with that. I know I met with Rich and DJ today on a bunch of items, and they are gonna follow back up again and go back out to make sure that they are locked and loaded, now that they have the actual design of the Gaga pit from the
Maybe we can-
vendor.
Sorry.
I guess
They're
what-
gonna go back out there again.
I want to stress, because it's not about the Gaga pit. I want a procedure that we stick to. And whether it's somebody who wants to do a Gaga pit or race car.
Well, this is a little
sidewalk,
unusual,
or
Tracy,
rain
because
garden, that
when
it
you're not
comes here
paying-
so that the governing, that's okay, it's still public land.
I understand, but ordinarily, the procedure is quite clear. I would put a resolution for a capital expenditure on the agenda, the governing body approve it. In this case, since it's being funded elsewhere, we would have to, obviously, I'll defer to the governing body, but if we could do a motion in a second off of, Kristen.
Sure.
And then just move forward with the project, as
could we
as
just
shown.
do under workshop? And just
That's
go that way.
Yeah, we could certainly do it that way.
And we can send out the visuals too. if
Yeah.
we have to.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
great.
Okay. A beautiful dog.
Expensive dog outfit.
You're very expensive. Take a guess. What?
Take it.
How much is
What?
my dog will pay? Yeah. Got to pick up.
15.
Where'd you say?
I was gonna say 20 grand. It's
Oh, is that 15,000?
18,000.
You said 1,500?
Yeah, that's.
18,000.
5,000.
You see my notes.
Wait, is it prices right? Is it prices right? So
Price is right here.
18,001.
Let's see it.
17,000.
18,001.
17. Oh, yeah.
I went over, huh?
$17,000 for dog outfit.
You're not 60.
We thought it'd be.
Has a very nice warranty though, I'll give it that.
Yeah, it does.
It's got padded rolls.
I did not see it.
He's a finance guy. He's smart. Last quick update, the committee voted at the last meeting to have 2 temporary basketball hoops installed this summer on the tennis courts during the summer rec programs. That this will not disturb play outside of camp hours, but because part of the camp is going to be moving to Fairhaven Fields, we're going to have 2 temporary basketball hoops in the tennis court.
I was a little unclear on, are they rolling them out every day? They're rolling them in every day?
You know what?
I'll have to
That's what
follow, I'll have
DJ
to follow up.
Yeah.
with DJ.
DJ said.
I wanna make,
Plan.
I'm serious, man. You know, I'm a big basketball guy. I wanna make sure that there's no insurance risk there of these toppling, they're not in the right place or something like that.
Is someone hitting the fence?
You know, the portable hoops, they need to be, you know, I think filled with sand and water, you gotta count.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
Teenage
I'm
counselor's
equally
not paying attention, a kid,
Yeah.
I'm equally concerned about people that are playing tennis if they're still in there and running into them or something.
Some-
Not kids running into
something-
the fence.
No, they would, oh, I see what you're saying.
They
If
would be
they're-
on the, they would be on the tennis courts at Fairhaven Fields.
Correct. Oh, I see.
Isn't that a joint between the high school and?
It is,
Sure,
it doesn't
sure.
interrupt their schedule.
It wouldn't interrupt court, only during camp hours, which are like, what, 9 to 11 for each.
but where does the basket go
Yeah.
when it's not camp hours?
And what are they gonna do? They're gonna take down the nets?
Good question.
I think they run the
Why don't we
opposite
take
way.
this away?
I don't know.
Why don't we take
On
it
either
away, we
side
send
of
our
that.
questions maybe, and then.
Yeah,
come
you
back.
guys send me your questions, but I have.
He addressed that at the meeting. He said one hoop on either side of the nets. So it's not actually a game, it's more for practice 3-on-3.
Why can't they go to McCarter or Sportsman's Field?
Well, because the camp for the older kids is gonna be held at Fairhaven Field. Sickles is already gonna be there.
But
remember?
aren't they moving there because they used to play at the youth center?
Yes.
Correct.
So then why, if they're at Fairhaven Fields, why, they used to go to the youth center, they used to, now they meet Fairhaven Fields because the whole camp used to be at the
Yeah.
youth center, and now it's not there?
The older-
The younger kids are always at Sickles.
Always, and they're gonna stay there.
Yeah.
This is just a one-time adjustment for the older kids. We'll come back on some more details. That's fair.
Okay.
Next meeting tomorrow night. And then communications, not much more to add other than the letter we're working on. I'm a big push to this Recycle Coach app. And I do not own it, but it's pretty like.
It is also something people have to opt into.
Yeah, I'm gonna download the app.
Yeah, do it right now. And that's it.
And I told you guys this, but I think with the app, if the more we opt into it, we can get points with the sustainable jersey too for the grant.
Well, there's also a free version and there's a paid version.
Okay, well, I must have the free version. It works.
Right, moving along, planning board. So, council president.
Planning board, thank you, Mayor. I don't have any updates. We haven't had a meeting since my last update on reorganization meeting, which was held in January. Our next meeting will be February 20th, and hopefully I will have something to report after that.
Thank you. Moving along, engineering, DPW, and zoning board of adjustment, Councilwoman Claire.
Thank you, Mayor. First, a big shout out and a note of gratitude to our DPW crew that has transitioned the whole of our DPW operations to the offsite, the concession bin. It was a significant undertaking during weather events and, you know, the normal business. So just when you see them, if you see them, just express some gratitude. They're working hard. On micro projects, the projects are underway. And as they have been, we can anticipate storm drain clean out in the following order. We can look for Smith from Colonial Foreman first, followed by Foreman from Smith and Hance, Hunting, Hance to the outfall of Knollwood. Oh, Not on here.
Oh,
It's not on, it's what I sent you.
Okay.
McCarter and Hendrickson, the stream crossings and the drainage line between Oak Lawn and Harrison. This will be significant. We don't know what we'll find, but that information will come back to engineering DPW and we will report out what we are able to quantify. Teresa, can you update us on street lamps? I know we put it out to bid. Have we gotten some responses?
Well, they'll submit their bids for the building. They, you know,
When is that?
that's gonna be the 8th, right?
This Thursday.
And then we'll open, I think, 10 a.m. and then we'll look to have the bids reviewed and a recommendation made and make the award for the next.
So the next meeting will be able, yes, some of us are very excited about this.
Afraid not another one comes down.
Also, I would like to be able to update us on McCarter Pond, and I know I tried to tag up with you earlier. Can you give us do we have anything on the horizon that we can report out at this time regarding future hydro rating?
I think it's a discussion that the governing body needs to have. I think you need to decide whether or not you're going to look to do a second round of hydro rating. We have a very narrow window for that because we have to do it prior to the fish spawning date, which is set by DEP, and off the top of my head, I think that's end of April. We could do, you know, we certainly could ask for quotes again and do a second round. I had written, you know, I met today with Rich and Jay, and I thought, you know, we probably have to follow up by putting that on a workshop agenda, probably next week agenda.
Yeah, I think, I don't want to get ahead of the process, but I know we'll also, because it needs to be said, restoration of the site in the vicinity of the equipment would be.
We talked about that today.
accounted for.
Actually, our goal is we needed to see what the governing body was going to do as far as that goes. DJ's concern was the fishing derby, which is June 1st. And I assured him that regardless of whether we did second round 2 of hydro raking, we'd need to be done way before June 1st and
In and out
clean that-
restoration.
clean that
and-
site up at the same time.
Okay. So more on that. Zoning board held its first meeting, the first, what is it, Thursday Tuesday, sorry. In February, they're reviewing an application. It was.
Yeah, it's the first Thursday.
Yeah, first Thursday, thanks, Beth. They're reviewing an application before them, for the former PNC. Some folks may know where that is. It's the one-story brick building just north of, Colonial Court neighborhood. Little note, just to say, great applicant, local person who wants to make the right thing happen there, and a sensitive neighborhood that's under a lot of pressure from other places, and I can see our zoning board working really hard to address all the concerns. The Historic Preservation Commission had its reorganization meeting, will be meeting on February 27th. The Grants Committee is meeting on February 19th, and we have a lot of grants to review. We're gonna attempt to do our executive summaries for this body during the meeting and kind of roll them out for you as quickly as we can. Sometimes the deadlines are just like immediately upon us, but it'll be our goal to get them before this body as quickly as we can, produce the summaries for you. And again, if my colleagues, if you all haven't had a chance to review the affordable housing summary that Teresa put together for us a few weeks back now, it's worth taking a look at. Just gives a good frame of reference and arc of events and for us to where we are now. As things may continue to shift, it's good to know how we got to where we are.
A follow-up on that, Tracy, just because you mentioned it, the legislation that's before, you know, the state legislature on the affordable housing that we've gone back and forth on and given you updates on, you know, from Mike Edwards. You know, I was speaking with a colleague today and you know, there's really gonna be a solid push because they're looking to actually change, you know, part of this legislation, they're gonna change our numbers and look to pay 25% of our real estate development numbers and put them, make us designate areas of redevelopment for that. And it, you know,
Oh, interesting.
you know, and that's a new wrinkle that just recently came to people's attention. So I'll see, I'm sure we'll get something from Mike Everett's office, but I would encourage the governing body members to, reach out to their, representatives.
Essentially, they'd be dissolving COA
Right.
Right.
and revamping and making sure that there's more fair housing options in every town throughout the state of New Jersey, not just urban areas, so.
And JMA is working on a synopsis too, and hopefully in the next week or so, some of this stuff will become a little easier to digest in a bullet point format, and but I do think it's important that you engage and because this will impact a lot of towns, and inclusive of Fairhaven. Just because we're built out doesn't mean that it won't impact us.
We still have the overlay.
We do, but I think that I think the part of this even with the overlay zone, there's some elimination of builder's remedy. So if something's not in an overlay zone, if someone could parcel together a few properties, you could see a developer coming in and making the argument to the courts that this is a perfect place for high density housing.
Well,
and
if there's
set aside.
no COA, there's no courts, it's an administrative mechanism now, it's not judicial.
No, that's COA was, administrative. The new legislation, it will all go through the courts and the court masters.
So
Once
how
they-
does the redevelopment legislation, just 30 more seconds on this, Mayor, if we can.
Sure.
How did the redevelopment legislation dovetail with what you were talking about?
You mean,
Before, yeah.
that's something I just became aware of today. Somebody pointed out to me, this is legislation that they're tweaking on an ongoing basis. So, once we have further details, and as they become available to me, I'll share them with you.
Okay.
It's hard to read a full bill, so usually we'll wait to a professional organization or our professionals do a synopsis of it and give it to you in something that's a little easier to digest and to speak to your representatives about.
And when, go ahead.
They found a shortage, they believe through a study, that there's a shortage of 200,000 affordable housing units throughout the state of New Jersey. And that's why this came about. So they believe that they need to create 200,000 housing opportunities that are affordable to people throughout the state of New Jersey.
They being the state?
The legislature, Troy Singleton out of Burlington County.
So when do you anticipate us having this summary?
Hard to say. Like I said, I'll wait and see what comes across my desk and pass it on to you. I'm not writing the summary.
I understand.
It'll come to either one of, it'll either come from Mike Edwards' office, it'll come from League of Municipalities or some combination, Municipal Management Association, some combination thereof.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mayor, just one quick anecdote on micro projects. So Foreman, Colonial Court, I'm looking at Ferguson's. One of the next steps was Foreman and Smith. Remember how that infrastructure, so that should be happening
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks
Yeah.
or so. So please be eyes and ears with water and stuff and let us know, but we're excited about that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, moving along, consent agenda, resolutions 2024-48 through 54. Before I ask for a motion, does anyone want to separate anything on the consent agenda? Does
No,
anyone
Mayor.
have any comments or questions on anything on the consent agenda?
A small request or a request for a small moment of education on 51, the sale of bond anticipation notes. If there obviously there's a beneficial timing or something, how does the decision that made to do it now? Is the project driving it or is it market?
It's actually driven by Monmouth County Improvement Authority. That's who will get the grants
yeah.
through.
Okay,
And they set the timing up. If you recall, we sold notes last March. We to roll those notes again, and we're issuing additional debt for other projects that are authorized for the borough. And the timing is such that it'll happen, the closings will happen again in March.
and that was designed to be most advantageous to those who are.
They go out once a year, the Improvement Authority, and what's most advantageous, when you speak to facilities, the Finance Committee, is that we get the benefit of their AAA bond rating and the fact that they're selling a large set of notes, so we're gonna get a better price than if we tried to sell notes on our own.
You want to add
Yes.
anything?
That's all accurate. The bigger deals get more
Yeah,
or traction in the market. Investors won't look at small ones, it's not worth their time. And the rating is higher, and it's very typical for bands to come every year on a cycle. So I'll watch our sale live just
It's because he had.
because they will, but I expect it will go very well.
The other thing I'll pass around too, just so you guys have it, is when we were doing all of the financing last year and cost avoidance right over 12 million and whatnot, we looked at the schedule of when we would issue and when we would incur the costs, when the resident would incur the costs, and we have that entire breakdown. So I'll resurrect that out and I'll send it to both of you so you have it. Because you can see when we did, you know, the MCIA, when it's gonna be, when we're gonna be, you know, anticipating note sales, first interest payment, et cetera. So I'll get that over to you guys, you know, this week so you can digest it.
Any other comments, questions? We want to have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Roll, yes,
Sally,
Yes.
Helen,
she just stepped out.
Bosch,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Thank you. Department reports, 2023 year end, January 2024. Do I have a motion to accept the reports as submitted?
Motion with a thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Moving along, go to the borough. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please try to observe a time limit of 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Hi, Carolyn Ferguson, 7 Colonial Court. I have a question that I'd like to initially direct to the council members who have been zoning board liaisons. And also Mr. Sowell. It involves one of the borough's ordinances. Would it be okay if I gave you a copy of it so you could look at it while I ask the
I would
question?
love that. Did you come prepared?
Or what?
No. Thanks, Karen.
Here's 3 or something. You,
You have an extra one?
I do. Thank you. Okay, as you know, we have a fence around our backyard. It's been there for 20+ years, way before we ever owned the property. The fence fell into disrepair. We replaced it in the exact same location. Before doing that, we consulted the borough website and the borough's ordinances. We read the ordinance that you have in front of you, 30-725A. As we have earlier discussed, this ordinance is terribly out of date, and it requires the resident to do a procedure that hasn't existed in years. So we did exactly what ordinance 30.7.25A says to do. We called the construction office. We tried to pay $10 and secure a fence permit. We were told that the construction office no longer does permits for Fairhaven. As we've discussed, the procedure in the ordinance is from before shared services being established. We later got a code violation that says we violated ordinance 30-7.25.a. Is it legal to say that we violated that ordinance?
You know, I don't have the whole timeline in front of me, but first of all, the construction office, they know that all ordinances that, I mean, all permits that related to fencing are from zoning. The construction office doesn't issue any permits unless they see zoning first. So I can't fathom that you would have called the construction office and they would have told you that you need to go to the zoning office.
That's what I said is what they told me. They said we
Has
don't.
it been adjudicated, your complaint, your violation?
I'm not sure what that means, but I'm
Has
gonna
it
say no.
disposed of in court, has it
No,
resulted?
no.
Still open.
So it's still open, so unfortunately, I can't talk about it because it could be
Okay.
potential litigation. However, I will speak to you afterwards.
Okay.
Maybe we can touch base tomorrow about some things regarding your offense application.
Okay. And certainly we would like to know like what we should have done differently that we didn't do. And then there are the second 2 matters, which you can see in our code violation letter.
You know, they say that we have a tall solid fence on our corner lot at the edge of our backyard. I would point out that if you ride around Fairhaven, it is easy to find many fences on corner lots that, like ours, have a tall solid fence at the edge. You know, those fences and our fence are not in compliance with the items B and C. I would hope that the intention is to apply this law evenly and fairly, and that we wouldn't get a code violation that these other people didn't get. So I think Mr. Sobel has answered my question, but if anyone has anything to add.
Do you mind forwarding me the, what they sent you as far as abatement options, just so I have all the information?
I think it's in the back of that letter.
There's an enclosed copy of the survey.
With abatement options.
On page 2.
Right, it says you have the option of moving as shown by the green highlight on the enclosed copy of your survey.
I'm looking for the.
I'm looking for the actual
Yeah.
survey that
Oh.
highlights it, so if you can just give me a copy or something,
Texted
that'd be great, thank you.
So the violation description, it just, something struck me. It does say that residents living adjacent to public property used for waterfront access may have the height requirement waived. So that's saying that anyone who's living near access to to the water can have it waived. But why is that? That seems to be nicer looking than her looking at the back of Acme. So why is it waived in that instance, but not for people who live like looking up to a?
I can't tell you why they did something in 2002. You know,
But I can tell you that that's what I asked for last
It's
February.
clear that the legislation contemplates a condition
Yes,
that would necessitate the residents meet for exemption.
yes.
Because they have 2 front yards and one abutting something that would impinge on their
Their
quality of
privacy.
life. Yeah, their
Yeah.
privacy.
So
That
I,
is what I proposed last February, was that that ordinance had an opening where we could just add or a shopping center.
or
I mean,
not.
I do see an argument for that, because knowing that property well, I walk there every single day. There is nothing blocking them from the back of the Acme, and it's maybe 10 or 15 feet from the curb line, so they're not far away from Acme at all. So, and it would only be a couple of people in town, and I know you'd mentioned last time, why would we change it for one person? But it's only them who's being harmed by the fence, no one else, by
that's
not
why
being
you,
able to
that's
have
why
it.
you go to the zoning board and get the exemption
There's
as
a process.
opposed to, because you can't do it, it's called spot zoning.
Yeah.
You can't just, focus on one area, because it
Okay,
has to be zone that's consistent throughout the borough.
Well,
The
but if we're
problem is the
making it-
process is expensive.
It
That's-
is
That's where
expensive.
it comes back.
And you guys also consulted the zoning board back in February, March. And they wrote back and said like, yes, there should be an easier process
Yeah.
to consult with the zoning board on fence members. And
And the
nothing
like.
has changed there.
So one cure would be to amend the ordinance to add shopping center? Would that, no?
No,
But then you're
it's-
securing it based on the singular
That's spot
situation. That's.
Or-
that is my-
or commercial,
Commercial
I'm not-
use, then yes.
yes, I'm not saying
Oh,
shopping
please.
center, but commercial
Please.
use, because there aren't that many buildings, but it is negatively impacting the resident. And not, her having a high fence is not negatively impacting any other resident.
Well, the real
Really?
cure would have taken place at the planning board during a site plan review where the required landscape buffer would have gone in on the western edge of the commercial property. It's not, shouldn't be your
She'd still
assignment.
probably want a fence. though.
Was there a problem
But
with
she
the
could have-
location of the fence? Well, it's supposed to be 30 feet from
It's
the
in the right of.
property.
It's also in the right of way. Which I understand we can get a license from the borough.
The
I've
license, the borough's going, well, the borough's going to steer away from issuing a license, the liability is just.
There's also.
A license is a privilege as
Aren't
opposed
there
to
drainage
an easement.
There's drainage concerns there, there's over drainage pipes that Rich has already pulled the, survey and our maps for, to show that it's in the right of way there, we have drainage pipes.
Carolyn,
I will say that fence has been in the right of way for over.
If I
20
can
years
ask,
without an
let
incident.
land use, let Betsy and I on land use take this away. I also want to do some follow-up on SDL.
In those 20 years, you also
and-
haven't found a governing
Right.
body willing to work on the drainage like we are right now. too.
Sure.
So,
We'll take it away.
Okay,
I wrote it down.
and I'll talk to Mr. Silver's more.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carolyn. Anyone else go to the borough? Allison? Right. Hi, Ruth. Ruth, you there?
I didn't raise my hand. It's an error.
Okay, well, we want to say hi to you anyway. Anyone else, Allison? Yes, thanks.
I have a bit of the borough, Mayor.
Sure.
I don't know, some folks might be aware that Salt, the beautiful store in our historic shopping district, is closing its doors in Fairhaven. Salt has a design center in the Sickles building. It has a very successful design studio, but its bricks and mortar presence in Fairhaven was really a wonderful asset. It's a real loss that they're closing their doors for a lot of reasons, but it gets to the point. I don't know how many people knew about that, but it seems that we have trouble retaining beautifully well-run, successful businesses, but we have no trouble retaining what seem to be buildings that are largely unoccupied. There's several. In my 2-hour conversation with Sarah, who's the owner, she's a very capable businesswoman. She runs a very successful business. She spent the last 18 months very focused on strategies to help maintain her showroom, River Road in Fairhaven. Incredibly smart. She didn't think of anything. I couldn't think of anything that she didn't try. She tried cross-marketing, she tried all sorts of promotional things, she collaborated with other like-minded businesses. The fact of the matter is that those dead spaces, we'll just call them the buildings that are there but nobody's home, are a really holding back our business district. And I don't know what everybody thinks about this, but I consider this to be a pretty important piece of what we can do to help make the business district stronger or thrive, at least remove roadblocks and hurdles. So I wanted to raise it tonight because the doors at Salt are going to close, and it seems to be a moment when we might want to commit to some strategy. We start to look at what we could do if we want to do anything.
Do you have suggestions?
Well, yeah, I have several suggestions. On the top of my head, Michael and I can make it our business district liaison. And I can make a trip to reach out to some of the folks I know at DCA and look at some programs and resources that might be available. I think we can look at the zoning there, what are the things that are holding with that. I think that there's probably some tactical things that we can try that maybe we want to talk to our borough staff about.
I think the application process has come up multiple times, and
Sure.
that's arduous, and so that would be somewhere area we could really look at the application process.
And obviously,
Is there another property besides Salt that
is the one that's right down, can you picture across from the bookstore? It's,
Isn't it next to Poe?
yeah, the
Mystic.
crystal store.
Mystic
Yeah, one
Crystals.
next
Mr.
door.
Crystals?
Yeah, no,
It's
there's
that building actually, and then the blue one across from, and it's up there, I'm not picking on anybody's building. I'm not, but I've sent people to that property owner, the blue building across from Booster View. And they're not in Fairhaven, but they're not far. But I think it would be really good to have a good database of our property owners to begin to have a conversation with them. A lot of our commercial property owners are local folks. And they care and they want to do the right thing and they want to see the right thing happen. And I think collectively, we all have a sense of what that right thing looks like. It's traditional Main Street. We all have an idea in our mind, but if we were to take the vision plan and get that together, that would inform everything we need to do after that, from a regulatory level, meaning adjustments to zoning, to retail recruitment strategies, design guidelines, everything is an extension of that one piece of planning work. according to our documents, remains incomplete since 2005. I mean, it's just been waiting for us to take care of it, so. I mean, to start,
I don't know what you mean by being complete since 2005, but.
well, as this, a few things, but, to start, if the council's comfortable, you know, like Michael and I get into it and start to outreach to some places where we know there's resources to help small town main streets. That to me is DCA.
Listen, Michael's the driving liaison to the business district. If she wants, you know, to go in that direction with your assistance, I would.
Tracy and I are on the
Yeah,
same page for
then,
sure.
then you want to bring some, tools back to the council that you think can benefit the town, I'm sure we're all gonna be welcoming that, you know?
Okay. Okay, Teresa, I have a question on the subject, while we're on the subject of businesses in town. Has there been a response about the gas station? I know they were issued a letter.
Which gas station, the existing one or the empty Seneca?
BP? BP. Because
They decommissioned the air
right,
hose and, you know, I do know that, I think I'd have to look at the last correspondence we got from their attorney about, you know, going to the planning board was, as far as I'm concerned, the last official correspondence we got.
have they responded about putting in screening and greenery? I mean, all that was supposed to be filled in when they took out the old stuff.
Well, first of all, I don't know. I don't know if they actually, when you gave them permission to take down the trees, I'd have to go back and look at the tree permit. You know, they didn't come before the planning board, so all that screening you're talking about, or all that site plan work you're talking about, there was nothing that was approved to go back and check against. You know, they were basically, they were basically replacing what was there prior, given full notice from Nick, and I'm sure I've shared this with everyone, his letter, I don't have it in front of me, that they could not expand upon that, for argument's sake, add diesel or add something else that they didn't have until they went back to the board, which they got an attorney and they were supposed to be putting together the application. And I do know that their attorney did, either the local attorney did tell us that that was a work in progress, but I haven't seen anything official other than that. And I do know when they went back and told them, I mean, even the lights, which it's a perfect example, they had lighting there before. But you could make the argument that, you know, lumens and things like that are something that the planning board would have looked into. You know, they didn't add extra lighting, they just, you know,
They dialed it up.
well,
So was it-
and I can't say whether they dial it up or whether it's more direct or indirect, because I didn't get into the details of that. I'm just saying, these are site plan issues that the planning board generally deals with. But they had every right as an existing use to upgrade what was there.
Can they move it though? So like the air tank, I'm guessing they had one, but they decided to put it on.
They've
the board.
decommissioned that now.
They did,
yes.
So that was a problem, like that
Yes.
was not.
And there's the benzene filter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether the benzene filter, I don't know if that speak intelligently, I think it has more to do with what you would. If there was one prior and this is just latest technology in a benzene filter, I don't really know.
But the planting strip that exists between the driveway and the BP station is there for plantings to help bring those properties into form, because we have design standards in our code that require landscape buffers between commercial properties to break up the asphalt and that's
And like I said,
intentional.
I don't know, you know, as far as that goes, I don't know if it was on a prior site plan or not. I don't have that in front of me.
Well, that's fair, and I'm not really.
And I know,
directing
you know,
but if they
I
come
know the
before
zoning office
board-
is you know, they're on top of it and,
They're not coming
you know,
back.
have been monitoring it.
But if they do,
construction office.
if and when, because
I might be off of this, we might want to be careful with landscaping buffer in that spot, only because there's visibility from cars coming out of the lot there. As I understand that, but from a safety perspective, we decided to put all these bike lanes in, and you got kids on bikes, you got kids walking, and you want to also see the cars coming out of the lot as you're driving by. So if you have a landscape buffer on that edge of the gas station, you're coming down River Road towards Farrington Road. And there's a landscape buffer between the gas station and the parking lot, you're not gonna be able to see the cars coming out potentially as they're coming out of the lot. That's all.
shrubbery.
It would have to be low.
Trees, you'd have plenty of a view shed.
We have existing ordinances for site lines and corners that address them.
Okay.
We go?
I have one thing to say. The Borough, I'm gonna end on a good note. I'd like to congratulate our very own mayor, Josh Halpern. He had the most successful girls mid-model
Yeah.
team in history. And he, dedicated 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 5 years to coaching the girls, and that takes a lot of time, effort, patience, and on top of that, being extremely successful. So thank you for everything you did for the girls.
Moving on to the WNBA next, I hear.
We're gonna start with high school.
Yeah.
Okay, with no other business to be had here, we are gonna move towards adjournment. Oh, wait, no,
We're going to.
we're going to executive session. That's not on my. Oh,
On the other side.
It's on consent agenda. It's on consent agenda, it's dashboard.
We passed the 49.
yeah, but it's not on my list. No worries. We're gonna move towards executive session, and I'm assuming no business,
No action.
no action will be taken on this one? No formal action, correct?
Correct.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Make a motion to exit executive.
Andrew has that in his.
Second, is anyone going to second that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
No.
Good night, Barry.
My favorite line. It does sound like a radio show. Good night, Barry.